Hi, and welcome to the Feel Good Always podcast. I'm Becky Bradley, and this is real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. I'm here with Alysia Heitkamp. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're here. Alicia's here. We're going to be sharing a lot about moving into higher consciousness, complex grief, loss, connecting to loved ones on the other side. If you're new here, I want to tell you that the Feel Good Always podcast, it's really about spiritual awakening and ascension, which is really moving into higher levels of consciousness. My daughter, Kira Bradley, she was in a fatal UTV accident when she was 15 years old, which of course for me caused a lot of grief, unimaginable grief. But what it really did, besides the grief, was open me up to a connection to her, to everything, to everyone, and really this massive connection, understanding, embodying that separation is an illusion and that we're walking through this really great awakening. And in that process, I end up starting this podcast and I meet all of the people that I bring on this podcast are other people that are connected to this. I say the forerunners into this energy. Many people that listen to this podcast are also experiencing just a lot of increased synchronicity, increased signs, increased connection as we move into this. And you are one of those people. So Alysia and I meet years ago, actually
2010.
Yeah, 2009 or 2010. And
it was New Year's Eve 2009.
Okay, yes, you came
by
up
your pool.
By my pool. And so it's so interesting to see when you look at your lives, your relationships, and to see the people. I had always done that before, but to see that I definitely am somebody who is a connector or an activator into this new earth energy. And so it seems to me everybody I know is connected to this. So I'm constantly talking to people that are experiencing having dreams and then seeing it the next day, or having just this, not just one little sign, a lot of connections. And so you're one of those people. And what's really amazing about this is that you experience signs and connections in the same way that I do, which is really being able to rise above and see the big picture. And I haven't experienced very many people that experience it like I do, but I love witnessing you do this. But I first want to start with fast forwarding from, we meet in 2009. We're not like close friends, everyday friends, but we're rotating in each other's lives through friend groups. So Kira dies, and it's really after Kira dies when I start having this massive awakening that you and I really start connecting, which is always so surprising to me because I wouldn't have thought. I was like, oh, you kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, whoa, she is super, super connected, which is amazing. You were already having signs around Kira. So there was a story of it's right after Kira died.
Yeah. Well, even I think, just before we went to her birthday party too, and that was just really, really meaningful and really important. And I was glad that we could come and share in that, even though I know it was hard.
Yeah. So you're talking about, Kira, she died on December 16th. And I talk a lot about the connection to 1222 on here. 1222 is a huge activation point. 1222 is actually the day after 1221, which is the end of the Mayan calendar. So, which is the end of the world, right? They would say. So 1222 would be day one. And so Kira's 16th birthday party was planned for 1222, and she died 6 days before. And so we end up having this huge party for her, which I don't even remember you were there, of course. You're telling me now, but I don't remember because I was wanting to die. I was not well, although I was already experiencing a lot of signs and connections. There were so many people there to celebrate her without her there physically, which was just so tragic. Yeah, of course you were there.
And then I made a Taylor Swift station, and I decided I was going to start listening to her music, and I would work out in the garage to it, and I would play it in the car, and my kids would say, okay, Mom, play one more song for Kira, then change the station, because they were over the Taylor Swift. But they were good sports. But then I was bringing food over to your house one day, and I was talking to Michelle.
She's been on the podcast before. Michelle was on the podcast, and we actually referred to our kind of like triangle connection that we have. So you were talking to Michelle. You were bringing food for like a meal train.
I was bringing a meal over to your house, and I had to take my oldest son to practice. So I went a different way than I would normally go to your house. But I was talking to Michelle and I was just like, I don't know, feeling like connected. I'm not even sure how to describe it. And I turned onto 12 Bridges by my house and I saw this little rainbow like in the sky, like a prism. And I was like, and I think I knew you were out and about, but because Michelle had said you weren't home or something. But then I said, "Where's Becky right now?" And she goes, "Let me check Life 360." And she goes, "Oh, she's on 12 Bridges." And I'm like, "I'm on 12 Bridges." And she goes, "She's going the other direction than you." I'm like, "Tell her to look in her rearview mirror. There's a little rainbow wink for her. It's Kira." And then as I was turning left to take Evan to practice away from the little rainbow, this song came on by Taylor Swift that I'd never heard before. It was called August. And I was like, wow, this is a really powerful song. Like I just all the feelings. I'm like, this is a beautiful song. Like, wow, I really need to keep listening to this. And went over, dropped off the food, came home. Later that night, I was just like super emotional from like being at your house and just feeling all that energy and just all the sadness. And for some reason, I looked at Mike's Instagram page and I saw the reel from the Taylor Swift concert and his background song. So it was like Kira and her friend and just like looked like such an amazing time. And the background music was August by Taylor Swift. And I was like, oh my gosh, Greg, like I literally just heard this song taking food over to their house. There was a rainbow. Becky was on 12 Bridges. And I'm like telling him all these things. And he's like, yeah, you know, whatever. That's kind of like when it started.
So what you're talking about here is a thread. I like, a thread of connection, right?
Yeah.
So not only do you see a rainbow, which is that initial sign, we literally had a rainbow over our house the day after she died. A double rainbow came over our house. But now you're bringing me food. I'm not there. You ask where I am. I'm right next to you. And then you hear the song, and then Mike has that song August. So it's like that was like that beginning of a connection for you. And then fast forward, you're talking to Michelle often, which Michelle is a really close friend of mine. She's my former husband's wife, but really close. We've been close for 20 years. And she really helped me see all the signs and connections. So you guys she keeps telling me, no, Alicia's got a lot going on. And I'm having so much happen and so many signs and so many connections. It's not until like a year and a half after Kira dies that you and I we end up on a group text together with Michelle, and you start experiencing a bunch of signs. The number 3, you're seeing twins. So all the signs that you are sending in this group text, I was also receiving on my own. We hadn't talked about it. I talk about this as like merged consciousness. So I will be receiving a set of things like this morning, it was birthdays. And of course, as soon as I get here, you're talking about birthdays. So it's like that. So that's how I know that somebody's connected to this energy, is that they're usually sharing about the same thing that I'm seeing everywhere. And so that's what happened. And so I was like, oh, okay. And it wasn't just a few things. We were both seeing the same signs. And so that happens. We start seeing all of this stuff. I was having a twin theme coming in, and the number 3 and all kinds of stuff. And what's interesting about this, the timing of this, is that we all start talking on a group text. Well, it was like literally 2 days later that my daughter Maddie ends up in the hospital with her appendix had burst 3 weeks earlier and she didn't know. And you work at the hospital.
Yeah, and I had just sent you a bunch of photos from the hospital, for like the outside of the hospital, for whatever reason the day before. I'm like, look, I don't know why I'm showing you this. And the next day you were in Costa Rica still.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were home. And somebody texted me, I don't know if it was Michelle, that Maddie was coming to the hospital. And I didn't realize you would be, because in my mind, you were still in Costa Rica. So I was like so shocked when I saw you. I'm like, couldn't even process. I'm like, what's happening? So you had just arrived.
Yeah, I got back from Costa Rica and literally 12 hours later, Maddie was in the hospital. And also, Abby's dad has just died. Yeah. So it was a lot. It was a lot happening for me. This was a big, can you stand in the truth of what you know? That you're being helped. Everything I'd experienced at such a high frequency. And then here's some really life things. You've got Abby's dad had just died, horribly tragic. And now my daughter's in the hospital. And here enters Alysia. And that's where you enter the picture for me in my stories, that like when I talk about making connections, it's as simple as that. I'm getting pictures of the outside of the hospital before I even know that we are going to end up there for the next 9 days. I had no idea. This was kind of like she had some stomach stuff, like no. So, and you and I were talking about all kinds of stuff, signs, and you show up and we just kept seeing sign after sign, and you were able to really not only like on a 3-dimensional level hold that peace for us, that calm, but I could see, because I could rise up, see the big picture and be like, oh, of course she's here. Of course she comes into my field, in my awareness, into my life right before this big event. Not that you just started talking to me, but that we started having similar signs and connections, and that you were able to be a calm for me. You were able to really come in and take charge in certain situations.
Do that sometimes.
You do that. And when I say that, I mean, you made sure there was a dog there for Maddie. And that was ultimately the dog that came in.
She's the best.
He's the best, Floyd. So Floyd comes in. You did all this stuff. And really just helped us stay calm. And I believe, that energy and us together, that helps. And then knowing, because you kind of, what you do is similar to me. You trust that you're hearing something, or you just know something. Like, send the pictures of the outside of the hospital. I don't know why I'm sending these. You do that a lot. And I love that. I do that too, because I trust that I'm sending it for some reason, and it always aligns when you tell me something.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, well, I mean, trying to understand it is
one thing.
That's the stage I'm at now, is I'm done trying to understand it. It's beyond understanding, and it's a feeling, like you said. You can't really explain it. The other day, you're talking about you having a flat tire, and I was like, oh, well, I'm having a flat tire theme. My friend Sammy had a flat tire, Lila had a flat tire, and then I say that, and then
I don't know.
You have a flat tire, and then you have seen lots of people changing flat tires.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, as soon as we say it, we start to see it everywhere. And it's not just that you buy a blue car and you're noticing. That's not what this is.
It's wild. I mean, I guess I've probably always been like this, but also from a place where we're very just practical and hardworking. I'm from the Midwest. We just get in, do the job, whatever. You notice something and you're like, oh, well, okay. And I think that people are aware of things, but they maybe don't share them for fear of like judgment, or they maybe just brush it off. And I'm super sciencey. I love research, but sometimes there's just things I cannot explain away, and that's okay. I don't have to know the why all the time. But I think for me, like when my dad, can we talk about my dad now?
Yes.
So something really big happened in our family. There was a couple things at the same time. And my parents ended up splitting up in 2016. Simultaneously, we found out that I lost my second pregnancy at 21 weeks. And so we had not really told anyone because I knew something was wrong. So I never told even my son, who was 2.5. And I really didn't tell many people at all. I had to tell work because of my job. But we were living in Minneapolis at the time, or Minnesota. And I just felt like something was wrong. And I kept asking for more tests. And they're like, oh, no, it's not covered by your insurance or whatever. So ultimately, I find out my parents are splitting up. And then we lost our baby. And we named him Gage. And so I had so much loss, and we were just devastated and broken, and I didn't have really any support because both my husband and I were pretty broken, and then my mom was broken, and my sisters were broken, and
it's like everything happened at once to your family.
Yeah, within like,
or it felt like that.
2 months, the same month. And then later, like 4 months later, my grandma died suddenly. And then my great grandma died. And then Greg's friend died, all within like 4 months. So it was just really, 2016 was really terrible, and 2017. But I felt like after we lost the baby that like my soul cracked in. I felt like I was a pole, like a long light pole, and there was a crack. And I told Greg this, that's my husband. I said, I don't understand, but that's what I'm seeing. And I feel like part of me died. it went away. I remember saying this, and it sounds interesting, but I remember saying I needed a medicine man. I needed like a Native American healer. I literally said that, and I went to work like a day or two later. I was working at the Minneapolis VA hospital, and we had some sort of meeting. We had to go to a conference room, and no one really knew what. And here comes this Dakota Sioux medicine man into the room, and he passed around a healing feather that everyone got to hold, and I was like, "You're kidding me right now." I didn't get to keep the feather. I wanted to. It's probably bad juju, but that was kind of something where I was like, that's interesting. And then with my dad, our relationship got very strained throughout the years. And I would say that my sisters and I definitely experienced ambiguous loss at this time, and we did not have a lot of support, and people didn't really understand or know what was going on or what our truth was. And so we were pretty much on our own, and my mom was very hurt. So she, couldn't be there for us in a way that we couldn't even expect that of her, if I'm being honest. So it was just a really hard time over those years. And then my dad actually had cancer. And so we had stopped fully speaking to him because of how bad it had gotten. And my grandpa died, his dad. And so we went for the funeral. I flew from California back for the funeral in 2019, and I got to see him then, and it went poorly again. And then in 2022, we found out he was on hospice. And I had multiple dreams during that time where I was talking to him. And then in March 12th, 2022 is when he died. And I didn't know he had died. I had a dream in the morning that I was looking through a long tube at a piece of paper, and I had to climb through the tube and got to the other side, and I was in a grocery store, and I flew into the air, and I was flying across all the people, and I could hear the sounds of the grocery store, like the check, people talking. And I was looking for my dad, and I'm like, oh, he's going to be wearing jeans and a blue shirt, and I'm flying around. And he whisked past me, but he was wearing an all white gown. And I was like, what is he wearing? That looks like a baptismal gown or cheesecloth, like flowing. It was just interesting. And about 3 hours later, my aunt had called me to tell me that he had died earlier that morning. And at the time, I hadn't remembered that dream. And then I told Greg about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what? So that's kind of when it started to take off with my dad, because we had this very complicated grief where we had already semi-mourned him. And I know that we're not the only people in the world that this has happened to. And it's really uncomfortable when no one reaches out to you to even say they're sorry, because they say they didn't know what to say. And that's actually, I will tell you, if you're out there and this happens to your friend, you should reach out to them, because they feel very alone.
So you're saying you had a strained relationship with your dad before he died, but that when he died, there weren't people checking on you because we don't know what to say, but this is very common.
Yeah.
This is actually very common, that just because you've experienced a disconnection here on earth, and then a parent or a loved one dies, doesn't mean that you don't still experience it. Almost seems like it makes it even harder.
Yeah.
For some people,
because we didn't have any closure. There was none. We weren't included in the obituary. We weren't included in the memorial. There was one, and we found out about it because someone that we were close with got invited to it, and they asked why we weren't there, and we didn't know about it. And we wouldn't have wanted to go to that particular one, but we never got his ashes. So that's another sign. So later on, this last summer, March of 2025, I just was sitting on the couch one day, and I'm like, gosh, I wonder if my dad's in his burial plot, because I had heard that he had a plot. Even though he was cremated, I knew that he had a plot. So I Googled it, and I found a grave site number in Fargo. So I messaged my aunt, and I asked her if he was buried there, and she said no. And I asked her to ask his wife that he was married to when he died if she buried his ashes, and if not, could we have them, because we need some closure. We were told something that he wasn't buried there, and that she still had the ashes, and those were his wishes. So I kind of gave up at that point. And then I went home 2 months later, And for some reason, everyone was in bed. My sisters were all home. We were all at my mom's. Everyone was there and everyone was asleep. And as I was going down the stairs, I was like, you need to find those scrapbooks. I'm like, oh, okay.
It was a thought.
It was a thought. So I went under the stairs and then I remembered my mom had moved all of our scrapbooks to a gun safe because there's no guns in there anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, but there was 2 scrapbooks in their lonesome sitting on the shelf and they were my scrapbooks from college and high school. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so random. So I start looking through the photos and I find earlier that day I'd sent you a photo from my town and I said, here's my dad's shop. This was his shop because he built houses. And I don't know why I'm showing you this, but here you go. There was a photo of my dad wearing a 3 Dale Earnhardt shirt, which is definitely a sign, with a hat with an A, and all of us girls' name starts with an A. And it was from June 3rd, 2000, and he was standing right in front of his shop. And I was like, I think I'm going to go to the cemetery.
So you have sent me a picture of the shop. Then you are there, this very emotional time, right? You're there with your sisters. You hear, go look at the scrapbooks. And then in the scrapbooks, you see the picture of the shop that you have sent me a picture of. And then your signs, which are the number 3, Dale Earnhardt, which is, those are both sides, these are all things. When I say you see signs like you see it all. Like,
yeah.
It's more than just the number 3. It's all of these things. And to know to look in the scrapbook. So you're there at that point, you see the scrapbooks, and then which leads you to go to the cemetery.
Yeah. So I use the address and the coordinates I found on the website to go there, and I find his headstone. It's a very big cemetery, but I found it, and I was so flustered because I was like, okay, why does he have a headstone if his ashes are not here? So listen, like, my sister's still really not at a place where anyone was going to take this on. So it was going to be me. And so the next day, because I was so flustered, and then I went to my nephew's baseball game in West Fargo. And if you don't know baseball until you go to a baseball game in the Midwest. I mean, it's just America. It was a great time. Everyone had their giant sunflower seeds and it was wonderful. And then we got home and I had time to rethink and I was like, I think I'm going to email the cemetery and ask them. So I sent them an email and I said, do you know if Scott Heitkamp's ashes are buried here or if it's just a stone? And I was with my dad's uncle and his wife, my great aunt and uncle. We were having a great day. We were on Ottertail Lake. We were on the pontoon. We were at our favorite pizza spot, Zorba's, and if my dad was still alive and in our family, we would all be there together. Like, that was a very
high vibes,
familiar place.
Right?
And I got a response back when we were sitting there that his ashes had been buried there in May of 2024. In March of 2025, I was told, no, they're not there. So he had already been buried there 10 months before that. And I was really feeling a lot of feelings like, why would you lie about this? And then at the same time, like, comfort knowing, like, okay, now we know where his ashes are.
And you feel like you were led there.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I had a purpose on this visit home. Like, I felt like I was being step by step, like, go the next step, finish this. And whether people wanted to go there to pay their respects or say hi or get upset with him, that's their choice, absolutely. But some sort of a closure for us that we never had. It's a start. And I know that everyone has mixed feelings about it, but it was definitely something I needed. And my one sister said, thank you for going the next step when we couldn't, and I think that I don't even know, like, just these thoughts came into my head. Look for his gravesite. Go look for that. Go find his gravesite. Go email the cemetery. I don't know. I just felt like I was being, like, kind of guided. Yeah.
So, a lot of people that are listening or that listen previously, they know I feel this guidance from Kira all the time. It's more than Kira, though. I have guidance from the other side, from angels, from beings, really from even your dad, before I know his name is Scott. Scott Bradley, which
Mm-hmm.
is Kira's last name. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. I was seeing the name Scott everywhere, everywhere. I mean, I have all these pictures I sent you. It was like Scott, 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 Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just that I'm hearing the name, I see it everywhere. And so I was getting that connection from your dad ahead of time, and you were. And there was this interesting thing with your dad on the other side through talking to him, dealing with what you have, all of your very human feelings about what happened, and then also this pretty big awakening that you're having. I mean, you say it's been like this your whole life, but would you say that it's been accelerated in the last couple of years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, like it definitely started when we lost the baby and my parents split because you're taken down to the studs. My dad built houses, so that's something I say, but you're taken down to the studs and you have to rebuild. But you're different now, your perspective is different and you're just more aware. You know, something else that happened in 2021, we were hiking. Here we had moved back to California and we were hiking as a family. And it was in March of 2021, so 5 years since we lost our second baby. And my older son goes, "Hey, Mom, look at this G." And, you know, the baby's name was Gage. And I said, "What G?" And there was a metal G, like, into the hiking trail. And he said, "Should we dig it out?" And I was just like, I hadn't even realized that it had been 5 years at the time. It was all like kind of flooding at me at once. And then I was like, oh gosh, no, we should definitely leave that there where it belongs. Like, this is its place. And I just felt very purposeful because before that I hadn't really spoke about it. And so I wasn't thinking that I'd ever come to a place where I could talk about it. And then I was like, I think now is the time because I think probably other people might feel like me and not know that it's okay to say something, or they could reach out to me privately if they want to talk or whatever. So I posted it and I did get like some messages from people like, "Oh, thank you for being so honest and truthful, and I didn't know that." And
you're sharing a sign, which is really frequency because Gage sent it. Today was a picture of Kira with a big letter G behind her. We didn't talk about this, right? We didn't talk about this, but on my featured photo is Kira with a big G. So I have so many chills right now. It's Gage and Kira working together through us in this conversation, you know, the soul of that baby, your dad, that they are helping us too, really. And to help through that pain of the grief that you experienced in 2016. And I've experienced my own really intense level of suffering. It dissolves the identity for me. Yeah, there's like takes you down to the studs, right? So as we watch the world kind of suffering right now, you know, the world seemingly is, there's a lot of stuff happening, and I am witnessing it mostly from a higher perspective of it's all happening as it should. And from a mother whose 15-year-old daughter died, to be able to say that's what I'm being, the guidance, which doesn't mean that I don't care. That's not what that means. It just means that I could stay calm and like kind of watch and observe, even when my daughter's in the hospital, even when, you know, things are burning down around me, that I can stay calm, know that we're being helped. And things like when you have a dream and your dad dies and you know things, it's a knowing. So explain that. It's like, to me, that's why I'm like, okay, all of this stuff is happening. It's not just one or two things. Now it can be a 10-step thread in like a minute's time, to the point where it's accelerating this breaking out of this illusion, this kind of the dream that we're in here. I knew it was a dream. I'd hear those things, but I'm experiencing the feeling of it being a dream, which is this massive connection. And that you have that starts, back that letter G on the ground. It would have been 10 years ago that when you lost the pregnancy, and then 5 years later, this big sign that like you put out there, and then fast forward to today. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this connection? Well, first of all, we're sharing what we're doing right now, because to not discount the signs, to not discount the connection. We woke up, 3:30 this morning.
Yeah.
Texting you. and I think when we get together, it amplifies. So when you start sharing your stuff with me, I see bigger picture, and then Michelle. So there's the three of us. As soon as you got in that group text with me and Michelle, it amplified things. the flat tire thing, like you're having this big experience with flat tires, so am I without us talking about it. So what does that even mean? Well, it means that we are moving into higher levels of consciousness. We are breaking out of the illusion. But how do we get there? Well, you have got there through surrender and through this immense grief. This first with will all happen at the same time. First with the loss of your pregnancy and Gage, and at the same time your dad and mom separate and this fracture in your family, and then your dad dies. But what I've seen from you, can you share what that relationship looks like now with your dad on the other side? Because you do have a relationship with that energy that he is, because you're being guided. I know you're asking questions about signs. What does that look like now for you in this moment? Because it's always changing.
Choosing the memories that I want to honor in my life and carry forward with my kids. And, my sister one time left Grand Forks, North Dakota in a blizzard, and the interstate was closed, and she decided she wanted to get home, and I was already home for break, but she still had another test. So she starts to go and get stuck. And we were in Fargo shopping, and my dad was like, oh my gosh. So he had a lot of other choice words, but whatever. Anyway, he got in his truck and he drove in the blizzard 80 miles to get my sister and bring her back. I mean, those are the things that I remember. I remember his hard work ethic. I remember him saying life's not fair. The sooner you learn that, the easier it's going to be. And I think ultimately what happened was he made us extremely tough, my sisters and I. And we are very determined people and also very kind. But we will set a boundary, and he ultimately prepared us to kind of deal with him at the end of his life. And that was just such an odd thing, realizing that. So as I've been dealing with him after he's passed, I do feel like sometimes he's trying to get my attention with stuff, and I have to still set some boundaries because I'm not totally all the way through all of that anger yet. It's, if I'm being honest. But he also, I feel like I like when I'm seeing these signs. Like I was driving home one day and I said, Dad, I need a sign. I had a long day. And this was just last week. That truck pulled in front of me and he had a license plate cover and it said Dad. And I'm like, okay, guys, here we go. Here we go. And then I get on the freeway and a car cuts me off, and it's a white Chevy truck, which he had, a Silverado, and it had a Pittsburgh Steelers license plate. And that was like his team. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And I went a few miles and got off on my exit, and the car was right in front of me. And I'm like, hey guys, the car is still here. And it like was an escort. Well, the next day, there was another car in front of me that had a Dale Earnhardt sticker, and it got like all the way to my exit and then turned on the same light again, like it was dropping me off.
Yeah.
And so
like it was escorting you.
Yeah. So I was talking to my sister about it on the phone, and she goes, I guess you get a personal driver or a personal escort home every day or something. And I think that everyone in our family is at a different degree of grief and processing and what they're willing to see and experience. So I think a lot of times I feels like it depends where you're at mentally, or just the readiness of your body and soul to be able to like be open. Not everything is necessarily like from heaven or whatever, but it's being able to notice the connections and signs and connect with people and humanity, and feeling like everything did have a purpose or a meaning, or that you're just feeling grounded, I guess.
Yeah, that it isn't like, I don't know, I'm not religious, but like heaven, I don't know. What I believe and know is like heaven is really just here on earth. It's inside, right? Everything is happening now in this moment. So we have our past, our future. It's all happening time and space. We have linear time is actually not a thing, right? It's something that we experience it as it feels like linear time. But that Kira, that your dad, that we can't see them, but we can feel them. But then there's everybody experiencing this differently, how they're going to experience grief, or a lot of people don't even experience anything at all. There's nothing. And that's okay. Yeah. When I think about like people listening to this podcast, most people are experiencing a pretty good level of connection, or they wouldn't have found this podcast,
Yeah.
right? That they're definitely, it's the people that aren't, that I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, because I was an atheist before. So I know that like we all have to be on our own journey. That is not what I am here to do. I just know what I experience, and that's it. And so for you with your dad and that connection, and that is one thing that you've been able to kind of have a new relationship, still set boundaries, signs, connections, seeing stuff on, but also that, so you're an occupational therapist at the hospital, and I swear this is why I say you will see every connection, like the name of the person, the number, I saw this on the chart and this, and it all connects to whatever's going on, and that you're able to see these themes that played out in your life years ago that are playing out now, and these timelines that kind of repeat themselves. They spiral and they mirror, and you're able to observe that and help right along the way. But you see it like more than just what it is, more than just the three-dimensional, this is my patient. You might see your patient and make this massive connection to something else, right? For example.
For example, I don't know, yesterday I had someone.
I knew there'd be something, because every day you have something.
Yesterday I had someone, and it was probably supposed to be fairly straightforward, but it wasn't at all. And it can't say much because of HIPAA, but it was absolutely just a bizarre twist of how things should have went. And the patient ended up calling their spouse and putting them on speakerphone to have the other therapist and I speak to them about this person. The spouse was going on, and I said, I just feel like you really have your hands full. And the spouse said, how long have you been in the room? And I'm like, 10 minutes. And then they said, oh, you're very astute. And I just feel like I had that person pegged in like the first 5 minutes. And, my husband's like, you're so judgmental. But I'm like, I'm not judging. I'm literally just giving you a synopsis of what I'm seeing.
You see things immediately. You see people.
And I see like a big picture, so as you're talking about how it's big picture, I've always been very good at like doing that, and not just at work, like in general.
Everything.
Yeah, in school. I'm a big picture person. And I just had another patient that was an engineer on the atomic bomb project, was talking, you'd be a good engineer. And I'm like, yeah, but I wouldn't be an engineer that fixates on one thing. I'd be like the project manager, because I can't hyper focus on one thing. I need to be able to do like the big stuff,
because you can see it not only on a three-dimensional level, but like kind of see how everything is connecting.
Pulling out from it and
like what I've heard you describe as things in your lifetime, like the experience that you've shared with me about being at the cemetery and seeing your name on a headstone.
Yeah, that was wild.
So that like, and even how it correlates to what's happening now. And you could see like these things like that back then, a wild experience that correlates now.
Yeah. And also,
but you can share that story if you want.
Yeah. I mean,
parts of it.
Yeah. So I have a previous relationship long time ago, and they had a relative that had the same name as me, but the person had passed away when she was young. And it didn't dawn on me. I went to a funeral for another family member, and then I saw the headstone, and the first name and middle name were the same, and I was like, oh my gosh, totally freaked out. It's like, and her little picture was there, and then the parents said, we knew you were special, and I felt so much pressure to like make sure that relationship worked, and it ultimately didn't, but maybe there was still something that got fulfilled, or some purpose that happened there for them. I'm not sure, but it turns out she was also the oldest of 3 girls, which I am. And there was just like a lot of parallels, and it was just crazy to experience that. And then I guess, even my kids, they'll say stuff sometimes where I'm like, where did you get that from? Like Jackson will be hiking, and he goes, hey, Mom, here's 3 angel rocks for you, just out of the blue. And he hands me 3 white rocks. And I mean, he wasn't even talking about angels. No one was talking about angels. I don't know where that came from. And it had to be 3, right? And then after we lost our second child, that Evan, my older son, he didn't even know that we had been pregnant and we were reading books for the night. And then he just stops and says, Mom, where's my brother? And I panic. Heart started racing. I'm like, did somebody tell him? Like, just thinking. And then I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, Mom, my brother, he's sick. He can't come here. But he's okay. But he can't come here, Mom. But he's sick. But, he's okay. And I was like, okay. And I just tucked him in and quickly left the room before I lost it. And I just was so blindsided by that. I'm like, where does he, how is he hearing this information? Nobody told him. He didn't know. That was him connecting to some communication that was being sent down.
He knew, yeah.
He knew.
I know we share a lot, both of your children kind of bring forward information without knowing. My daughter Lila does it all the time.
Yeah,
happens
they don't know.
all the time. They don't know that they're doing it, but it's connecting. And I do believe that the kids the children, they're more connected.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to know, but they say something, and when someone else is connected like you are, you're going to pull in that and see those things, and it's really beautiful. Yeah, it is really beautiful to kind of look at your children and be like, wow, how do you know this? And especially the story. I mean, anyone that's listening, the story of your son knowing about this brother without him ever at such a young age, because they are, I say closer to the veil, right?
Yeah.
Before they are conditioned to not believe and trust. We come here knowing, and then we get conditioned that none of that is real. None of that is real. That's not proven. No scientific proof. And so that, we hear of that children. But I believe I'm experiencing it and you're experiencing it, that we're moving more towards remembering what we have inside, right? Another, this frequency that we have, this energy. For me, people can talk to me. As soon as they start talking to me, they start experiencing signs, connections, seeing what I'm talking about. This is very often. People listening to the podcast, they will see, for example, today you could have, you said 81, someone would be listening, driving, and they will see that license plate 81 as and it's these things that we don't discount. Pay attention.
Right.
Because the more you pay attention, the more you will see these things that don't. Literally, I thought I was going to be late today, and it's this simple. And I'm going to look at my maps to see how long it's going to take me. And I'm thinking, and the song, I pause the song, and right before I pause it, it says, going to be late. That's simple. And I'm just that is a connection. How does that all work? I don't know. I don't need to know, but I know it's a connection. So we talk about this frequency, which is one more thing I want to talk about, is your frequency. So I've talked about before, when I came to Live Action Music, which is where we filmed this podcast, they had to get these new little microphones right here, because the first podcast I ever recorded took them 12 times longer, because they couldn't identify, or they couldn't get out this frequency that they've never heard before, which is, that makes sense to me, because this massive energy that's coming through me in this room, And when we got here today, I warned them about you, because you have this thing with technology.
I do.
And share about that.
I mean, so I have this unfortunate situation with technology where it doesn't want to work a lot of times. And it's not simply I forgot my password. It's most recently trying to leave a tournament, my phone just stopped working, the maps, and I was in San Francisco. And so I'm like, okay, I generally know how to get out of town, and it just wouldn't work. I restarted my phone twice. My son's freaking out because now his phone won't work. And I'm like, what's going on? And then my friend standing next to me, she's like, my phone works. It's not that. I'm like, I don't know. So I had
But you do know. You do know.
I had to start driving, and then eventually it started to work again. But then I had to trust that I knew where I was going and use my skills, because my dad used to tell me all the time, you should know where north is. Just look at the sun. I'm like, okay. So I had to calm down. And then again, I was in San Francisco in a different part for a tournament. And the same thing happened when I was trying to leave town. And my son goes, oh, no, not again, Mom. Why do you always do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And
but it's also on top of that, you'll have so it could be, it's not just the phone, your car not starting, the microwave not working, the Netflix not working.
Yeah, new microwave broke twice after I used it. And my husband's pretty much over it now. Don't touch any any of the appliances. Like, I
Yeah.
know how you are. The car will just not start, like involving like getting AAA to come out telling me my car has mechanical issues. Now the door won't shut. He has to shove it down. Get home, car starts, door opens, take the car to the mechanic. Nothing's wrong with the car. Where he doesn't even believe me.
But he knows that, well,
He
but he
knows.
knows that you have this thing with technology, like the Netflix won't work.
Yeah.
And
He'll
he'll say,
leave
you
town
need
for
to
the
stop.
weekend.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. I want to watch a show. I turn it on. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Then I'll be like, what is wrong? He's like, I don't know. It's you. And at first I thought he was just being annoying. And then I realized it is me. It happens a lot.
So, in my experience with you with this is that you'll try to leave me audio messages and they'll glitch out.
Yeah.
And the same thing when I'm trying to leave you one, it will glitch out because it's like that frequency on the way here. And I was like, okay, so on the way here, I was messaging you because I was like 5 minutes behind you. I'm right there. I'm almost there. It was like train, stoplight, person walking in front of me, like all of this like stuff kind of getting in the way. And I was like, oh, this is Alysia. Because what's happening is we're always mirroring. We're one. We're literally one. Everything comes from the same. And so we're splitting off and having these individual experiences. It's like roadblocks. I don't know why. You get to look at your life and understand what that is about. But so I was like, of course, I'm on my way to record a podcast with Alysia, and it's like never. I've been here so many times. Has the train come? It's usually off the freeway, straight shot. It was like every little spot, which I actually think is kind of fun. I'm so surrendered. I just think it's fun. I mean, or if I try to record you a message, it will stop, and I just it's because Alysia. It's glitching because of Alysia, and it is because you are very high frequency. That really is it. It's. These aren't just, this isn't just one or two things. It's a lot of things.
It's a lot.
So for me, when I have internet issues or something, I just go, okay, I guess I'm not supposed to do this right now. Or like, I heard you just say that in San Francisco, when the maps aren't working, you can take it as an opportunity to trust your inner knowing. So those are the kind of things that we can we surrender to whatever's happening and go, okay, keep showing me what you're trying to show me here. And so the last thing that I want to ask you, because you've talked about a lot today, not only your connection, but dealing with ambiguous grief and ambiguous loss. And, there's a lot happening in the world, and you're an occupational therapist and you're raising children. There's a lot of stress happening in the world. And there's like, how do you balance or begin to balance the moving into higher consciousness, connection to all of these things and everything that's going on in your life? How do you keep yourself calm?
Yeah, that's a challenge. Lately, I've had a really hard time trying to keep calm because of everything that's going on and parenting and everything. But I have really tried to make more time for myself, where normally I would maybe fill it with like doing more actual activity. I've actually went to quiet places. Like I joined a gym that's pretty individualized and you don't have to see a lot of people and it's more quiet. And I think that is what I need right now. So I'm trying to, and it's so funny because you've been posting about finding the calm. And that's what I just read an article about how the Norwegians say, like, the louder you are, the harder you are to understand. And so I've been explaining to my kids, like, we could all do better. We can all do better. Try to be more calm, communicate calmly. Like, I know that I don't do this perfectly at all. This is a very new attempt. And then also the other thing that I'm doing to like feel good always is to take opportunities to educate my kids. Like this morning's lesson on the way to school was, do not offer to help someone if you're expecting something in return. So the help has to come from within without expecting transaction, right? Like you have to want to be a good person. Do not offer to help someone if you're going to turn around and say, you know what? I did this for you. I need this now. That will totally make everything, for naught. So they were like, okay, Mom. I'm like, we'll practice.
My dad modeled that for me too. And said the same thing. When you give something, give it with no expectation of anything in return. Because it actually doesn't feel good to give and then to a year later be mad at that person. That feeling of poor me, I give so much and no one helps me, does not serve me.
Mm-mm.
I don't like the way that feels. So that is feel good always.
Yeah.
Although there's a funny way that that works is that you do get a lot in return. And I love that you're teaching your kids that,
Trying to.
Yeah, modeling it is the best way to do it.
Mhm.
And I don't do it perfectly, but we keep them calm in a world that's it's a little interesting right now.
Yeah. Well, I just pray for humanity and just people coming back to the very basics of just taking care of each other. Like that is sometimes forgotten a lot of times.
But we are seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing it there. People taking care of each other. You showing up here is doing that.
Yeah.
We are seeing it. And I believe it's coming completely. Do you want to share one last thing? I mean, you kind of already shared, but what it means to feel good always to you.
So feel good always to me is just taking the time to go, gosh, being aware of how you're feeling, acknowledging it, and then thinking about what could I do right now that would improve my mood or make someone else's day better, or what are things that I can do for myself that I have found helpful, or what have I been wanting to try, and do that, allowing myself to feel bad when I'm feeling bad and giving myself that time and not pushing it, but then also doing the things that I know are going to lead to wellness, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much how I look at feel good always too. Feel it all. Don't stop yourself from feeling, but also look for what can bring you out of it and to spread it. And that's what you did here today. Helping, we before every recording, just, pray that whatever we say is what we're supposed to say, which I know it is, and that it will reach and help somebody. And I know you help people here today. So thank you. I love you. So thank you for listening, everyone. If you haven't followed the podcast, please go follow the podcast, subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're on, and tune in next time. Thank you.